I think the best question a mentor can ask is, what does success look like, feel like, sound like to you?
It's very difficult to ask challenging questions at the very beginning of a relationship because you need to build that trust, and it takes probably 2 or 3 sessions at least to be able to get there. But once you've built that trust, actually the questions you can ask are almost endless because that trust exists. The best question, I think, and I start nearly all my sessions with it, is how's your last couple of weeks been? How have you been since the last session? Because so much happens in business during sessions, or between sessions, that you need the business owner to be able to take stock of not just their business but also their personal lives, because they all affect how that business owner reflects on how they are performing and how their team is performing and how the business is performing. So I try to take the emotion out, but unless you understand what's happened to that individual during that period you haven't been with them, how can you actually empathise with them and sit by their side and work with them?
What would success look like? How would you know when you've reached it? And what happens right after that?
One is getting people to visualise, what would it be like if they were to go and do something? And you're not asking them to do it, because that's not the role of a mentor. But I think putting that suggestion in their head and just getting them to imagine what would happen if is always powerful. But I also always ask, when I first sit down with someone I'm mentoring, what's going on for you at the moment? Because it is always much more than just a to-do list or whatever projects they're working on. To me, that's often the least interesting part of a mentoring relationship. It's much more about what's going on for them at home and at work or in the community.
I think the best question a mentor can ask really is, what is it the mentee is trying to achieve? What outcome are they trying to drive? And I think having that clarity helps the mentor then guide the conversation and the advice they then give the mentee.
What's your gut telling you? If someone forced you to make an answer right now, what would it be? That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best answer. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the definitive answer. But we often, I think to our detriment, override our intuition. And having someone who says to us point blank, all right, well, what do you think? What would you do? Is a useful frame. Because oftentimes when we go to a mentor, we're sort of looking to be told the answer, and sometimes that's right on. Sometimes we need to be told the answer, but even more often, you kind of know the answer, you just need it reflected to you. And so having a mentor who has the sense and the judgment to, at least periodically, if not most of the time, ask that question rather than immediately saying, here's what you do, is helpful in terms of awakening the mentee's understanding of their own knowledge, their own internal self-knowledge.
A best question a mentor can ask is, what do you think you're ready to do? And then once the person answers that, to say, could there be something more? That's where you'll get your big response.
What is important in your life? What is important in your career? Because by knowing that, we can provide a framework, a journey, a roadmap to support their journey. Because at the end of the day, they will take the journey. And our ability as mentor is to provide that path.
The best question a mentor should ask isn't a question. Best thing a mentor can do in conversation at the right point is just shut up and stop and not try to fill the silence and let the mentee think and let the mentee really reflect on what they've been discussing. I think we can jump in with clever questions too often. Sometimes we've just got to stop, listen, and more importantly, let the mentee listen to their own thoughts.